Here there's no rapture. Here there's Mars.
'69th class of University X, out of 72, today 2 classes in 1. Revelations class, the 7 musical notes that prove the existence of the power of God. Who remembers this class? And the second, you will never see nature and the universe the same way again. Sacred geometry, it's the beginning of this class because this class is long. Why do teenagers like rock or rap? Rap is an expression. In music, reggae too, but rap is an expression. How did rap come about? It's a lot of lyrics. X also suffers from the rap phenomenon, which is a lot of lyrics to fit into a melody. And you end up having to rap, because otherwise you can't manage. Did you see my song? Control Z? It has a lot of lyrics, a lot of pedagogical information that you want to teach through music, and you can't fit it into a melody, so it ends up becoming a rap, and that's what happened with the youth. Rock also represents this. Why do teenagers like funk? Why do teenagers like music and dance so much? TikTok, little dances? Why? Where is the explanation? In the Garden of Eden, the 3 phases. Him. With. 1. You are born to him, innocent. And you are expelled from the Garden of Eden and become conscious. In this expulsion from the paradise where you were born. Fantasizing, playing, sometimes childhood wasn't even that good, right? There are people who didn't have the pleasure of a good childhood. Then, when you barely understood what life was, and I'm here and didn't ask to exist, suddenly I'm already menstruating. Suddenly I'm already in puberty. Suddenly I'm already in the so-called prescient phase. And prescient, adolescence is the difficult phase of rebellion because you are out of the garden, out of paradise. And then the parents start pushing you out. Life starts pushing you out. So, the tree of life has the ufological cube from the last class. And in this cube is the source of life. Please reach for that little cabal over there. What is Kabbalah, folks? Kabbalah. And the Jew puts on the head a tefillin, which is a cube. The Muslims are there in front of the Kaaba, which is a large cube. Christians to the cross, and the cross is an open cube. And what is the deity of the Muslims? 1,300,000,000 people? Allah. Then you add Kabbalah. Oh, Professor, how fascinating. Fascinating? No, regrettable. Because a billion Muslims don't even know that Kabbalah as this connection. Kabbalah. They never even imagine. And the cube is here in this symbol. If you look at it, you will find the cube here. You will find Metatron. You will find the cross. Everything is here. Here is the shape of the human body, the tabernacle, Solomon's temple, the cosmos, the atoms, the solar system, the universe, the Sephiroth. Each fruit here. This is the Bible. It's the childlike language, the fruit of the tree, for you to understand. 1500 BC, Moses, who was a master of the east of Egypt, with great difficulty to write for everyone at that time and even for us today. He used the childlike metaphor, a tree, but its fruit. Look here, see if it's fruit. So, here is also the breastplate of the priest. And these precious stones, which are even there in Paradise in the New Jerusalem. These stones represent colors, represent musical notes, represent energies, represent frequencies. All of this here is connected. When we die, we will meet Jesus in the same human form he had 2,000 years ago. For us to understand and make the Lydia, the Lethi is felt. But he doesn't have that form. The truth is that he is this image here. This is the image of God. But God is this it? No. This here is how everything works. The order of things. Because here lies the root of life. Everything starts with the idea, ends with materialization, and spreads through the dual. Always, seesawing, here. Hourglassing, good and evil, and intertwining. And materializing, and realizing, and happening. See? For example, here is the prayer. The idea. Write it down. Prayer is an idea. Prayer is an idea. Prayer is a desire. Have you ever noticed when someone says, I wanted to pray? You didn't feel like praying. You felt an idea. An idea came and you decided to pray. It's just that, unfortunately, the church only taught to pray. An idea came. Instead of the person grabbing a pen and paper or going to an app, a software, instead of praying. Is it to translate that, to express that in poetry, in art, in science? No, it will be translated into kneeling on the ground. It will be left in the hands of the hidden God. Do you see? So here is the prayer. Prayer is desire. And here is faith, the realization. Faith realizes. So, everything starts here. One day I said, I'm going to make a Bible, and I did. One day I said, I'm going to create a symphonic night, and I did. I'm going to make a pocket Bible. Do you have a pocket Bible at your home? Do you have one? You already have it, don't you, Professor? You already have it. It's already there, because whoever has faith has already done it. It already exists. Call things that do not exist into existence. This is a Kabbalistic life. When a person truly has faith, their ideas can even be frightening. Isn't it true? Their ideas can even be frightening because when a person truly has faith, all it takes is for them to have an idea and you say, and then, it's already happened, it's going to happen. Make a movie, I made a movie. Da Vinci inspired the Vitruvian Man. Remember the Vitruvian Man? Which is the image of the tree of life. Man is a pentagram. I'm not talking about hexa, it's a pentagram, which is demonized as a symbol of Satan. But, in reality, it is the symbol of man. Man is a pentagram, a star. Man is the Vitruvian Man, which David knew, the tree of life, the fruits of the Kabbalah. The problem is that almost everyone who believes in and studies the Kabbalah is mystical. You are practically the only ones in the world, I said practically, who know the image of the Creator. Of the tree of all of the fruits. The fruits are Sephirot. And what are the Sephirot? They are illuminations. They are inspirations from the cosmos. But we know them without mysticism. The structure of the universe is made of Kabbalah. The laws of development of the material and immaterial cosmos, because the material is a copy of the immaterial. Professor Paulo mentioned this in the book of Hebrews, right? In the book of Hebrews, it says that everything we see is a copy of the immaterial, of what truly exists. So, the entire mechanism of the world is here. It's how the world works. Do you remember the class? 60? What was the class? 60? Infinity, the cosmos, where we showed the waves, materials, how things are forming, materializing. That's it here. Kabbalah leaves its signature on all things, with 7. What is the 7? Then it gets to this tiresome point where people will die in church with such a tiny little mind, saying, I know it's perfection. Are you really going to die with that peanut brain? Ad infinitum. What is the 7? Ad infinitum. The 7 is X. The 7 is X. The 7 is an unknown. In Jewish language, I taught you in the original Bible code that the 7 is the poly. You say 1, 2, 3, poly. What is the poly? What is this? Prefix, poly, Greek, many. So, when you have a very high number of things you don't know, the Jew would say 7. That's why it says 7 spirits, 7 eyes. Are there 7 eyes? No, there are many eyes. So Mary Magdalene had 7 spirits. Did she have 7 spirits? She had many spirits. These spirits could even be fewer than 7. It could be 4. It could be 60. It doesn't matter. Or even, it might not be a fixed number. A variable number that didn't stop, so therefore it is explained with 7. Let's start, then, with 7 musical notes. Why do you think that evil spirits, evil virtues, demons, within the consciousness that is here where the Garden of Eden is, here where the Garden of Eden is, the heavenly regions, leave with music? Why do you think that the spirits that tormented Saul's life only left with music? Could the power be in the heart? Is the power in the strings? Where is the power? In the vibrations, in the energy produced by 7 musical notes. So we have do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, and then it goes back to do. You go down, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, but you go back again. And it's so established that in music, this is called an octave. Because the end is the beginning, meaning the do, we can say it's the 1, but actually the do is also the 0. It's the 0. Then when you finish on ti, you reset, restart, reboot. That's why the number 8 is made with 2 circles. The 8 is the new 1. The 8 is the new 0. Those who, in the past, went to the school board and had difficulty making the number 8 correctly in the little snake shape, couldn't make the 8 properly and made 2 circles. Because the 8 is 2 zeros. It's no coincidence that the 8 is made of 2 zeros. Did you notice?
The beginning is the end. And the end is the beginning.
And the matrix is made of this. So when you reach do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, to continue the music, an octave comes. So we are going to do this now with Maestro Marcio. Everyone together there. The maestro will give a do, and we will do together. Let's go. Do. Then re. Re. Then mi. Now fa. Sol. La, ti. And now, oh possible, where to the top? Then the owner an octave above can now make the touch. It was down there. I'm up there on the dollar down here. It's the same do. And the name of this is octave. Then comes the lyrical and goes up and goes down. You can choose to go down. You can choose to go up. Octaves down, octaves up, and always octaving. And the kingdom is like this, in Pooh, the Daz, because we are at the very end of Friday, the 6th kingdom. The 7th kingdom will begin, which is the note. And then comes the 8th kingdom, when all things are truly transformed, because evil will only be annihilated at the end of the SI. Some people think that in Puadas, in heaven, everything will be wonderful. But the apocalypse says there will still be a serpent, and it will still be released, because the dragon in heaven will be imprisoned. The churches say we will be raptured, but the dragon will be imprisoned. If the dragon will be imprisoned, it will be released. If it will be released, there is still evil. Within this so-called heaven, within this so-called paradise, evil will still return. Because the scale hasn't ended. The musical scale is do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti. In ti, there is still evil. When the last note, si, ends, then evil will be destroyed. We will be superdual. And then, yes, we will go to an octave above, which is called the octave kingdom. Kingdomate. Then, yes, it's new heavens and a new earth. Then, indeed, we will have a transformed world, superdual, above good and evil. So what is the 8? It's the new first. Do you understand? Which is the symbol of all faculties of knowledge. The serpent, what is the symbol of almost all faculties? You who are studying there or have already studied have a grandson, a nephew, a son. Studying in jobs that will be taken over by AI. But you are there studying. It's your turn, right? You can't stay still, right? You have to live. But you are there studying. Look at the symbol of the faculty you chose, of the subject you chose. It's a serpent. The serpent is in the stained glass of the Catholic Church, while some fervent Catholic is now calling me a heretic. You're calling me a heretic, but in the stained glass of the church where you attend Mass, where you profess your faith, there's a serpent there. And who understands that serpent that's there? Only the priest? Are they the only ones who can understand? The duality of life. White notes and black notes make life a musical chessboard. Have you ever noticed that a piano is like a chessboard? Isn't the piano a chessboard? Yes. Between sharps and flats. So man knew good and evil, sharps and flats, and was introduced to the music of semitones, the beauty of semitones. So Maestro Julio is going to give an example. What is a semitone for you to understand there? He will play AC, and then AC sharp, and then AD. That, between them, is the sharp. Otherwise, we wouldn't be back in childhood. Otherwise, we would be back in childhood only in C major. So, when we leave the garden and enter adolescence, we start to experience the black keys. We begin to feel the influence of semitones. A child only knows the C major scale. There is no complication. Anyone can play it. It's like running your fingers over a harp all in C. Did you know that a harp has so many strings? It seems so difficult, but you run your hand over it all in C. But it changes to dual semitones with 7 signed pedals, Maestro Julio. Did you know that the harp has? I'm not talking about the Christian harp from your church there. It has nothing to do with it.
Instrument.
Harp and instrument. The harp as an instrument has 7 signed pedals. Look how interesting. But you press the pedal and it changes the semitone, because otherwise it doesn't change.
Interesting, Professor.
Yes.
In music, we say that the semitones, the sharps, and the flats are alterations of what is natural.
See?
So we are in a state there of natural notes. And when we have C sharp, E flat, they are alterations, variations of those notes that we then call natural.
Even in that C, if we were to talk, one thing I notice is this. I always teach you. I teach. And at the level that I have reached, I can no longer take classes. For example, if I were to study again, take a course, I'll take a course title. One day I'll attend a lecture. I can't do it anymore. Because if I listen to a professional, a technician from any field who will bring knowledge and not wisdom, he will start talking just like you're talking now. And I can't do it anymore. Because then I'll have to grab paper and pen. Because everything he says to me is useful. Because if I, for example, go to listen to a lecture by a doctor, sometimes Dr. Enrique is here and he's talking about some things in medicine. I think, my God, because everything, any field, is enlightening. Any field is X. Look at what you said there, alteration. It's called alteration of the natural. I mean, you already have a metaphor. On top, you would already have a study. On top, you would already have an entire language. On top. So, my God, enough. Enough. Stop. That's enough.
What? At this, Professor, you were talking a little earlier about the number 7. In music, we have the 7 natural notes. In the system, we have 12 different notes. And 7 is very interesting because there are only 7 notes, but they generate almost infinite combinations. There. For example, when we think about the number of chords, there are more than 3,850 starting from 7 notes. So, When you say that 7 is many, it's unknown. In music, it's no different. And about the octave, there's something interesting too, because when you close a cycle, you start again.
Yes.
So we are here, approaching the 7th day. And when we enter the 8th, everything starts again, a new phase, a new texture.
Now, oh Julio, go ahead. Do it in the style of someone learning level 1. So someone is going to learn guitar. Imitate your students there. Pick one of your students. A real beginner. He plays a C chord that only a beginner student can manage. Play a very simple C chord. He'll strum it like that. Then he'll try to play a second G chord. Go ahead, second G. Then, with difficulty, he plays a G chord. Then, with a lot of difficulty, he plays an F chord. The F chord is even harder. The F chord requires research. It's very difficult. Then he tries, and it doesn't come out. He's imitating a real beginner student. That's right. Then he progresses a little, and can already play a minor chord. Let's play an E minor. Then he plays an A minor. Then a D minor. Now, he's starting to play more songs, more repertoire. He reaches a level. It's so infinite that there will come a time when he'll do it. What the? Great Brazilian composers have done in the last 100 years, which is MPB. It's about being able to play many notes in a short amount of time. I once saw a guitarist on Joe's Source, and I was just speechless. The guy could play a chord on every syllable.
Exactly.
Can you do something like that?
We have little gains we play with harmonizations.
Go ahead.
Happy birthday, where you can fit, for example, up to 48 chords.
No, for the love of God. A happy birthday. Do something just to show what high level is. Look, high level. This is acquired after a long time. But in snooker, it's the same thing. Because the simple thing for the person who is learning, they can only make one shot. They celebrate the one shot they made, but they didn't even prepare for the second one. Then, when they manage to get the grace and luck to prepare for the second, they make the second shot. And they say, "My God, how beautiful, wonderful." They cheer and applaud. They even shout, "Break of 8." As if 8 were a break. So what does that mean? Then the person starts to get the hang of having 3 o'clock on the ball, 6 o'clock on the ball, 9 o'clock is marked. The snooker ball is 3, 6, 9. They start to get the hang of leaving it for another, for another, for another, and making sequences and creating effects and learning the table. I mean, in everything, whether it's music, sports, or anything else, it's infinite. And see how this infinity relates to the semitone knowledge there. At first, you saw the sphere just as a sphere. To you, it didn't matter where you hit the white ball, it was just hitting the white ball. But then you learn that just by moving the cue, a little to the right, it makes a huge difference. And you start to gain mastery over it. And on the guitar, it seemed like everything was the same. But then you realize that just by doing this with the strumming hand or the fretting hand, it changes completely.
It's a detail, right? Teacher, a detail. Going back to the issue of chords. Sometimes the student is just starting out and they want to produce sound. And then the sound comes out a lot, and sometimes you use your little finger. Here, I don't know if Juniel will be able to show it there, but just adjusting the finger, a little detail where you get closer to the fret, a slight lift of the hand, the sound already comes out beautifully. So it's common in class. Sometimes the student comes and plays, and I say, let's go. Adjust here, put your finger in the spot, and do this with your hand. They play, and the sound comes out.
But now let's talk about standards, Julio. I went to learn with Josmariel at my father's military police barracks. At 10 years old, I went to learn guitar with him. And then I went to learn saxophone at the Piranha State College with the Air Force sergeant. And clarinet with the conductor of the Assembly of God. And then, in learning these instruments, what did I understand? Anything small was a celebration for me. But then there comes a moment when you reach a level, a standard, that you can't take it anymore. C, G, F. You want the minors. then you don't want that anymore. Your standard has risen so much that you want the ninths. It's the same with snooker, because snooker also hits the ninth, hits the sixth, and hits the third. Isn't it amazing?
369, right?
Even the control stick of an airplane, just so you have an idea, is 369 to pilot an airplane. And then you start to understand this thing. You start to realize, look, it hurts with Friday. Look at the signature, C with a ninth. It's the same as snooker. You see that the principle, and how can it be the same thing? How can music have the same pattern as volleyball, soccer, golf, chess, all these things? There's only one explanation. Is everything the same? And if I cook with Lena, why does it also have thirds, sixths, and ninths? Because everything is Kabbalistic. That's what's incredible. Now, as you raise your standards, you no longer accept it. You can't stand it anymore. You go to a church, or if you were part of a theater, an orchestra, you can't stand listening to someone playing just the simple notes anymore. You respect it, but you can't stand it. But you no longer feed off of that. Isn't it interesting? Exactly, so your level rises, and the name for that is holiness. The name for that is conscious evolution. And there are people who get stuck in time, and they stay in that first, second, and third for the rest of eternity. I was born this way, I'll die this way, and they don't evolve. And what is the purpose of us being alive? To evolve. Always to be better. So look here. Give a guitar tuned to E major to someone. If someone picks up a guitar, even a 12-string one, just strumming all the strings without pressing any fret will make an E major. What am I trying to say with this? How are things? The relativity of things. If you take a string now and stretch it, you will have the tuning of life, the berimbolo. Take just one string and keep stretching it. You will have the change in frequency, wavelength, and auditory recognition of sound. So we call it C, the name that man gave to recognize the identity of that sound. That is a wavelength that I identify, recognize that sound. And name it, designate it with the name that men gave C. But in reality, it's a little snake that reaches a height. Take a ladder, climb. When it reaches that height, when it gets here, that little snake is called C. Is it interesting or not? Look, one thing I ask of you that you do, and I even want to ask Lena to do this now and help me. Bring me 3 glasses and bring me a pitcher of water. At home, place several glasses on a table and gradually fill each one with water, tuning them to 7 tones. Who has done this before? You have to do this to understand. And gently tap with a wooden spoon. Gently, right, folks?
Go slowly here.
So, I've done this live once. I'll do it again today, but very quickly. You're going to place it. I won't have time because it keeps tuning, but we're just going to place it, just so you understand. You place it there. Now, imagine doing all the glasses. Brilliant. With a semitone. Yeah, isn't it? There's the Hawaiian guitar. Now you place, exactly, you can place a little glass there of whiskey. That's it. It becomes easier. And then you can do it. Produce the sound. That even is that sound. That slides.
It produces an effect, right?
It produces an effect that transitions between tone, semitone, and microtone. That's why it even moves in the middle of the semitone.
Exactly, because a sound, actually, is composed of 9 microparticles.
9 microparticles. Is it signed or not?
It's signed.
Is it signed or not?
We call this a comma in music.
Comma.
They're the microtones, right?
Microtones. Quick, Lennon. Help her out there. Otherwise, we won't get out of here. It's just back here that I manage. Hey. Guys, let's go. What's happening with you getting stuck in the middle of the way? So here it is. Look. And we have a schedule, people. Here. Look. Let's fill a glass of water. Then, let's fill another glass halfway. And let's spill it over the keyboard. Let's put just a little bit of water in this one. And let's go. Let's see what happens here. Are we going to break a glass live? Did you hear that? And here? The less water, the higher the pitch. Now, I'm going to have to perform a miracle here, right? Then you can tune it and make an instrument. I mean, what is this? This is empathetic engineering. What is this? It's also called reverse engineering, right? Can you take it over there, please? One thing is to pick up a guitar. Every time there's a guitar near you and you stay there, whether you took lessons or not, you took lessons, whether you have musical talent or not. Another thing is to make a musical instrument. Professor, but I don't know how to do it. I'm teaching you. Take the glass and make a musical instrument, or take a string and stretch it. Tie a string at one point, pull it, and keep tapping it with your finger. The more you stretch it, the higher the pitch. But why do this? So you can understand and have what I call Sophia vision. You will never see the instrument the same way again. Before, you were just a fool who looked at a guitar and went bling, bling, bling. Now, you understand how things are. You start to understand how the engineering, which we call Kabbalah, works. This is also called cosmos. Why? Because I can only understand how the world works this way. Why do you think we are here? Why do you think we are alive? If not exactly to dive in and understand existence, how things work. So sharps move forward. Flats move backward. In the duality of the cosmos, in the frequency serpents we hear. Because what are sounds really? They are serpents, ethereal. You see, we call it sound, call it a musical note, but it's a serpent, ethereal, a spiritual serpent. Beyond semitones, there are microtones and nonotones that humans are still getting to know, and that we will master in the celestial music of the cosmos, in the realms to come, I dare say. That's the sound of the universe, right? When they record there. Someone who had the opportunity to be on a satellite turns on a recorder and listens to the sound of the universe. Why do they do that? It sounds like a cat meowing. Thank you. Why? It makes this musical odyssey, right? Reveal. That's right. Lucas remembered the Olymp, which is the great sound of the universe from Genesis. That's why when people go to the East, the techniques came to the West. For you to relax, for you to emerge consciously, then you. Delta frequency. Many who lead the system are just notes. Guys, this is very beautiful here. Many who lead the system are just notes. If you left the system and you didn't participate in a school of Jesus, want to walk alone, that's just a note. Play a note there. Just that. But families together, you who only walk with family, me and my family, we talk about the truth. I don't gather with a school, with other families, other surnames. So you're just in the melody. Play a melody there. Melody. Now, however, beyond that, as a church, as a school of Jesus united, we are harmony. That's harmony. Can harmony only be made? Together. Together. And our actions and works are the rhythm. So it's a delta sign by God. Melody, harmony, and rhythm. The delta. Do, mi, sol, to make a note. Chord, the chord, which we call harmony. That is, I have to combine do, mi, and sol to make the C major, to make the D major. Also 3 to make the F major, and all. That is, I have to have at least 3. Is it signed or not? Just like a family, it's mother, father, and children, the offspring. A school of Jesus starts with 1 and manifests where there are 2. Or 3. 1 Corinthians 14. It says 2 or 3. Judge. This didn't start with Paul. It started way back with Moses. Moses said 3 witnesses. Music in minor tones is a sextra of sadness. If you want to make sad, melancholic music that touches the soul, that's why the Gospels can touch people's hearts, because it's music in minor. Now, music in major is of dextra, of joy. See, you can also make happy music with minor, but minor always works for emotion. The Jews prayed by singing, and this inspired the Catholic Church in the creation of its masses and liturgies. Where does it come from? The priest. We are here with Laura. Show Laura there. Where does it come from, Laura? The priest they're doing. We are here tonight to talk about God. Why does he always end up singing? Because that's the inspiration from the Jewish grandmother. So this came. He always ends up singing. Always ends up singing. And why is that? This came from Judaism, right? In Kabbalah, the letter Aleph is the note. Do, re, bet, e, re, set, me, gue, mai, gue, bura. And I could continue here. Each sephira is a musical note. If we transform the notes into colors or geometric shapes, we will also have them. Folks, you don't understand, because many people are watching me saying, how beautiful. I already knew, I had already heard. No, you don't understand. There's something you haven't seen yet. This here is God's engineering, God's architecture. This here is the programming of the universe. It's how things work. Here are the 7 days of the week, the 7 geometric shapes, the 7 colors, and the 7 musical notes. They are all for me, and they are all for me with their derivatives. So when I draw any inspiration, it comes from here. Do you understand that all the most expensive paintings in the universe came from here? That all the music, compositions, all the rhythms, everything that was successful in life came from here? In other words, God left everything. That's why he doesn't interfere, because he already left everything here. You just take from here, according to your wisdom, your inspiration, your gifts, and you mix these components and you start co-creating based on what's laid out. Got it?
Professor, when you talk about geometric shapes, another curiosity here is that when we think about writing chords, the way we Brazilians write, for example, a major 7th chord is the letter C, the 7, and the M. The American writes C and delta.
Yeah. Well, see.
So he uses the geometric shape, delta. The American uses the geometric shape.
Incredible, incredible. Very good. Look, we have Delilah, the lesbian, who always watches and participates. Our affection and love to Delilah. See how things are. Now just within what you're talking about there, I can transform notes into colors, into geometric shapes. Guys, don't you understand yet? We look and it seems like things exist. So I'm seeing right here in front of me, monitors that are rectangular. I'm seeing a cell phone that is rectangular. I'm seeing your heads, which my part is round. Yeah. But in physiognomy, which I just gave you a lesson on, there are various types of faces. There are triangular faces, hexagonal, circular, rounded. If you haven't understood yet, Everything is just one thing. I can transform the frequency, serpent, note, into color, and into geometric shape. Can you understand that life is expressed in senses, but it's all just one thing? For example, let's go. A single person is just one line. Two people together. It's a support. It will make a tripod with two legs. Then it wouldn't be a tripod, it would be two legs.
Exactly.
It's a bipod, right?
There's another question here, Professor. Actually, there are several if we were to discuss them all. But like when you say that everything is just one thing, if we take a frequency and start altering it, we'll see that all the others are stemming from just one. They are just one thing. So we have a study, for example, that shows, I think it was recently, mentioned that as you alter the frequency of a dolphin, you start reaching other types. See? Understand?
And that's not even mentioning the phone tuned to a major, the mosquito. The mosquito is so annoying.
Most of the noises we hear, especially related to energy, the cell phone itself vibrates. The frequency of B. Some others are noted in B flat. See?
Now let's go. Getting back here. A single person is just a line. So were you called to be unchurched? To be a nihilist? Is that it? Two people together as support. You all know very well that for us to have support for this microphone, to hold here, for a camera, to hold, for anything I want to hold, I need a tripod. 3 legs. Professor, but there's the ladder. You know that a ladder like this is dangerous? A ladder like this is also dangerous. You only start to have some kind of safety on the scaffold. And look, a group of people fell there, I think in Rondonia, the other day, during the new year. They even canceled the show because several workers died at the same time, falling from the scaffold. I mean, you only start to have safety from a tripod. People united. What is the first geometric shape? Triangle. It's the first geometric shape. It's the first form of safety. It's the form of unity. Then, it goes on until it reaches fractals. From 3, it goes to 4, 5, 6 sides, 7 sides, 8 sides, infinite. But it's the 3 that gives the basic form of safety. I can't make any shape without it. Third line. Do you see the importance? Just like in music, there are 7 geometric shapes signed by the Creator. We can move forward now and delve deeper. As I said, we're just getting started. Abraham is C major. Isaac is Re. Jacob is E. We can also see in real, monarchical time, Saul is C, David is D, Solomon is E. In New Testament times, Peter, James, and John. Is anyone understanding that God always chose triangles? Whether in the time of innocence, conscience, human government, judges, legal, which is the Torah. Time of Moses, then prophets, then. Jesus, New Testament times, church, epistles, then, now, revelation. In all times, God worked with triangles. Do you see?
Professor,
Yes?
I remember that when you gave this class, you brought up the structure of high-voltage towers, which are made up of several triangles, the structure.
And then we move forward, go on, and reach the point of the hexagon, the honeycombs, how airplane turbines are made, hexagonal. And why? Because 3 is a form of security, 6 is double the security. The safest shape that exists, the most secure geometric shape is the hexagon. That's why we have the success of the hexagon in the streets. Have you seen how many streets are paved with hexagonal stones sidewalks? Pavements? And also, the beauty of the bee's wisdom. Each note is a letter, each letter is a number, each number, a geometric shape, each shape, a color, each color, a day, each day, is a time, each time, is an animal. And then comes zoology, astrology, and science. Everything is connected. In the series, we revealed that musical notes were named by the religious system. There are people who play various instruments and don't even know this, where the note SI is the abbreviation for Santo. Missing the T here, and Hannah means Saint John the Baptist. When I say saint, I am speaking of Santo the Just is a Catholic title. John the Baptist not only baptized people but also baptized music. In the Garden of Eden, everything was C major, but when man left the garden, in C sharp, soon after came the D of duality Siv. Moses guided and raised Israel in the note D. Then Jesus came in the 4th millennium, that is, in the note F, on the Wednesday of the week, and will return at the end of the note A. We are today in A. Today we are already in A, sharp. I think not even sharp anymore. We are already sharp in the micro sound of the microtone. Beginning of the note B of Saint Johannan. Saint, just, Saint John the Baptist, which is where the apocalypse will take place. The apocalypse will happen at Saint John the Baptist, in B major. Expressing this and recording this require true figures and scores. Math, you know you're going to study well, you're going to study. Quintinfusa, semifusa. It's so difficult, that it's like mathematics. No. When we study language, you write an essay. The teacher asks. You write a very simple text. Over time, you enrich your vocabulary by reading. Soon, your words are increasingly rich, your vocabulary richer. And you start writing increasingly well-crafted texts, more enjoyable to read, more enjoyable to listen to, with a richness of synonyms. In mathematics, it's the same thing. You start with a first-degree equation, second degree, third degree. You reach a third-degree equation. It gets to the point. There's a movie on Netflix once, have you watched it, where the guy spent 20, 30 years at the board, trying to solve a problem he never solved. He was almost dying and still couldn't solve the problem on the board. He got stuck and he would take a stone and write the equation on the wall. The prison wall was completely covered with numbers. He couldn't finish that equation. I don't quite remember the ending of the movie. I don't know if Lion remembers. Here is a Clarice, but if I'm not mistaken, at the end of his life he solved it, or maybe he never did. Can you guys remember that? It seems like he figured it out at the very end of his life, right? At the very end of his life, he figured it out. What am I trying to say with this? Have you ever seen a complex musical score? Has anyone ever seen one? I'm going to get one here. Let's go!
In the symphony, we'll have several.
We'll have many complex scores. Here. Score. Let's get the one that's really complex.
The Ninth Symphony.
Ninth Symphony. See? It's signed too. Beethoven's Ninth Symphony is as well. Look here. Take a look at this one. We'll grab anyone here. There's no time. We're going to take this one. Isn't it? Your mathematics? This here is a score, but it has chords. And the chords are also very difficult. Look at the interpretation of this. Why this here? This here is an expression and a record so that another person can reproduce it. What I created, what I thought, or what I want the person to do. I mean, can you understand that? When it was written, what is the last class at University X? The precision of creation. We are always critical of all the things people do. There are people criticizing you now. Why didn't Professor Lako talk about such a thing? He missed talking about such a thing. Professor Lako said this, but didn't say that. I love Professor Arco's class, but he couldn't have talked about such a thing. We are always criticizing when someone is creating something. We are always criticizing, we create. We just lack the audacity to criticize the things of God. A lady came to visit me here. She lost a daughter and said she spent years until she reached her ex criticizing God. Spent years and years criticizing God for losing her daughter. Until she understood. I mean, We are like this. Our ego is like this. But in reality, look how complex things are. When you go to express and record, that's it. And see how difficult that is. I mean, in other words, is this music or is this mathematics? Is this mathematics or is it philosophy? Can you understand that everything is a matrix? When you go to express, folks, the little sound waves played. In a short time, when I go to record this, it becomes a formula. Complex. So, all the frequency serpents that make up the existence we see, hear, and feel is made of mathematics, which is the source code of God, the matrix. Who is the source code of the universe? God. So math, I'll even put Matima so it doesn't keep appearing, which is math, meaning evolution and wisdom. And Tix means one who is evolved, the same meaning as the word philosophy. Mathematics has the same etymology as the word philosophy. People hate exactly philosophy and mathematics, but they love music. How to explain this? I like music, but I don't like mathematics. I don't like philosophy, even though they are all the same thing. Exactly. Can you imagine? If Sullivan, when he has to make a 147 in snooker, were to record on paper what we should do, he would put symbol, such, the position of the cue, symbol, such, the position of the white ball, symbol, such, the speed of the cue, symbol, such. It would be an immense score sheet. If you were to translate snooker or any other sport into a formula, who could read what needs to be done? You have to do this, 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 position this and that. Do you understand? Now, let's say a person who can interpret texts, interpret mathematics, a huge equation, a set of numbers, and a person who can interpret sheet music. They are not someone who solidifies consciousness and makes the cherubs move away. Move away, cherub, I want to evolve. Do you have any idea how important it is for you to study music? You who have never enrolled, you should study for a bonus day in your life to understand how much your brain will open up.
Exactly.
How much? Is your brain going to stop? It didn't happen at the X meetings, you know? Wilson, Altair, William. When you get to the X meetings, when the music starts playing, people are like, why do you stay there? To whom? Because you're traumatized, thinking that music is emotional to connect with a person that you haven't healed, and because you haven't developed your artistic side, which is half of your brain, you are missing the opportunity of your life. I mean, you developed the rational side and haven't developed the artistic side. When you enroll in a music school, what are you going to learn? That there is much more than you think life is. What I don't understand, I criticize to avoid having to understand. What's easier, to understand or to criticize? So, the micro, the mirror, and the macro, look how interesting the zodiacal rhythms explain discipline, disciplining orbits within the atom. And so we have each sign at a fixed point of 30 degrees totaling 360 degrees in perfect cycle. That is, even the zodiacal music rhythm. Of the atoms that make up everything we see, they are also in rhythm and dance of music. And in their rhythm, they are aligned in the perfect cycle of 360 degrees. At the Council of Nicaea, the Catholic Church prohibited the study of the Kabbalah. Did you know that? That's why, since 325, people have fear of certain symbols, but hypocritically. All churches are built with thousands of symbols. I have a problem with symbols, but the whole church is made of symbols. For Pythagoras and Solomon, 9, 33, and 81 were perfect numbers. Every 33 years, our astrological chart repeats. It restarts in Tesla's universe code. 3, 6, 9. Guys, look how interesting. Not just interesting, this here is the wisdom of all things. Look at Marcio, saying that the goal is to study music. Guys, it's not to become a musician, to play at school, to make a living from it, or to play at Exo's gatherings, or to turn Jesus schools into a CCB where everyone is required to play. It's for you to expand your consciousness. You will develop an area of the brain that you haven't developed. And you won't benefit from music itself. You'll benefit from everything your brain will provide you after you open up this part. A part that was accessed, that has never been accessed, that will be accessed, and that has never been accessed. I don't know. It depends on your age. There are people here who are listening to me now, at 50, 60 years old, who have an inaccessible area of the brain that will only be developed through musical work. 33, 66, 99 years. What are these years? They are the repeated dispositions of the Ouroboros. I'm saying that when you turn 33, is there anyone about to turn 33? Who is going to turn 66? You? Make a repetition of the astral positioning from when you were born. It's incredible, isn't it? What does that mean? It's a replacement of time, space, and matter. The three phases of a man. Did you know that? That until the age of 33, a man is physical. Until the age of 54, he is conscious and mental. Until 81, he is spiritual. Finally, he begins to let go of his ego to understand his existence. If he is a consciousness that will heed the call. In other words, isn't it beautiful for someone under 81 to understand spirituality?
Yes.
Because naturally, the stubborn ego of man would only understand spirituality after much suffering when he reaches 81. So God is very happy when creatures like us awaken to spirituality without having to go through an entire life, only in old age to say, I understand.
Go ahead, Clarice. Professor, in pedagogy. My sister is a pedagogical advisor, Louisa. So, she explains that when she has a child with learning difficulties, they recommend. In this case, for elasticity, as the professor is saying, they recommend learning an instrument. Learning a game, they suggest chess or another language. These are the three deltas, right? Which are recommended to be able to. When they engage in any of these activities, then they improve their learning in the classroom.
Which is how the study in the Middle Ages was, trivium and quadrivium. 3 plus 4, 7, trivium and quadrivium. The trivium and quadrivium is the only educational method that has worked in the history of humanity. Why did they remove this method from schools? Because they were only producing geniuses. And it's not in the system's interest to produce geniuses. Who remembers the rain from the Matrix? 100-110-0001. Isn't that how everything is written? How everything is recorded? So, the entire cosmos is made of, look how incredible, time, which is past, present, and future. This you need to know to teach everyone. Space, length, height, length. This is wrong here. Length, height, and width, which is 3D. Matter, electrons, protons, and neutrons. We can also say that matter is solid. Liquid and gaseous. How can I say that time is yesterday, today, and tomorrow? 3 times 3 is 9, and the digital root of 360, which is the lunar year, which, in fact, the year has 360 days, is 9. And 360 is the Ouroboros. The 0 that in the octave above, as I mentioned before, is 8, and 8 are the 2 circles. And 0 is 360. And 360 is the mandala of life. It's the cyclic cycle. What is 360? 360 degrees. A metanoia is 180. And 1 plus 8 is 9. And 3 plus 6 is 9. That is, when I make a half turn of the circle, the rotation, the semi-rotation, is 180. 180 is 1 plus 8, 9. When I make the full rotation, from 12 to 12 o'clock, when I complete the perfect cycle, it's 3, 6, and 0. The code of life. And 3 plus 6 is 9. That is, the cycle, everything works out. Suddenly, when things have a cycle in life, it's like this. And someone is watching me saying, Professor, I don't understand. Because this here is God. Oh, what a beautiful thing. 7 days, 7 forms, 7 colors, everything beautiful. Really, I was agnostic. I was an atheist. Now I'm starting to think it's really like this. But there's more to it than that. We could talk about psychological, social, human behavior. Fashion, for example, is cyclical. It returns in each cycle. The fashion of dressing, the fashion of fingers, what is the fashion of eating? Even sexual fashion. For example, if you observe, we stay in a 12-year cycle with one type of sexual behavior and 12 years in another type of sexual behavior. You can observe that sexual choices, sexual forms, the way of relationships, the way people dress, eat, it changes rotationally, cyclically. You can see that what they did in the 70s disappeared and then they started doing it again. On top, with an octave above. And everything is cyclical. Have you noticed? It's amazing, isn't it? Shall we talk about the flower of life? Every molecule of life, every cell in our human body knows this geometric pattern and is built by it. That's what's most beautiful, even more so. Something you can't even imagine is the next lesson. 70. What you don't know is that there are sounds we don't hear. The cat hears. The dolphin hears. The dog listens. And there are sounds that the cat doesn't hear either. And they exist. Which is what we saw in the movie Lucy. That only deities, only spirits hear. So we say, wow, what silence, but there's always a sound. Many sounds. You say, look how interesting this is, but there's much more than you can see. In a lit-up city, we can count the stars. Sometimes there are only 30 stars in the sky. But if all the city lights were turned off, there would be thousands and thousands and thousands. And if we went up about 1 kilometer in height, we would see millions of stars. What I mean is that our eyes have a limitation, our ears have a limitation. And the most incredible thing of all, this here is the cosmos. And it is not this static symbol here. This is just an image, also childish, more evolved than a childish tree of life. But it is still childish. Let's say this is a teenage interpretation of what God is. Because what God truly is in full motion. In other words, how do you think a flower was formed? And that's what we will start to see in the next class. The pattern of the year, which is the same pattern as the snail, which is the same pattern as the wave, which is the same pattern as fractals, which is the same pattern as spirals. Why does almost every part of nature have a spiral? Sometimes, on a little branch of a flower, on a vine, on a hanging plant that I have here in the mothership, there's a pattern, the little flower forms a spiral. Why? Because the flower is following a code that the seed received. And the seed receives a frequency. And this frequency, which are numbers, which can be letters, which can be musical notes, which can be anything you choose. In fact, this frequency, this serpent, is what makes it sprout and materialize in form in a fractal according to the score it received. According to the code it received. So, it evolves and materializes according to what it received. And that's where what you're talking about comes in, the number pi that we will study, Fibonacci. That is to say, that's when you will start to understand the depth of what Kabbalah is. Because, in fact, all things that exist in form and nature form through the sounds of the universe. Because sounds form. They form, literally, form. I'm talking about geometric shapes. It's very interesting, isn't it? I mean, I started with music, but I'm actually talking about the formation of all things. The code of the flower of life contains the wisdom of the genetic code contained in our DNA. So, the same code, the same pattern. And the code is mathematics. And mathematics is a score. In other words, each genetic code is unique. And each genetic code is a music, a painting, a color, a geometric shape, special. Because everything can be music, which is your hearing. Time, which is the lived experience. Sign, which is the meaning. Color and shape, which is the scene. See? In the next two classes, 70 and 71, we will delve into the original, sacred geometry. Then we will start to understand examples of all this in the various kingdoms, mineral, plant, animal. It's amazing, isn't it? All of this here, like this, in this way. Then, if we want to delve into the micro, we can talk about DNA. If we want to delve into the quantum, we can talk about neutrinos. If we want to delve into the macro, we can talk about the stars. And whether it's the star, of whatever size, the black hole, or the tiny neutrino, the quarks, all of them are formed in the same code they received from the macro. That's why I say the micro mirrors the macro. Because if I take the most powerful spaceship from SpaceX, not from 2025, but from 2040, travel, space, inward or outward. If I go, the more I go, the more I see. It will be the same as if I take a more powerful microscope from 2040. And I go inward or outward, within myself. Because when we observe on the micro or macro level, we see the same patterns. Everything repeats in the same way. It's incredible, isn't it? So, this is what we call sacred geometry. But churches don't talk about this. Religion doesn't talk about this. And when people have access to this kind of material, unfortunately, they have access to this kind of material. But even scientified and the agnostic scientified Baruch Spinoza or scientified. Just to confirm my faith. When you go to these sites about sacred geometry, when someone talks here and there, the few who speak, you'll see an evangelical, a Catholic saying how beautiful the things of God are, but they leave the page. They didn't delve deeper. They didn't enter. They don't know how much that could really lead them. What you are entering and stepping into today. Walking with me here, understanding, accessing what I am presenting to you, something so much greater. Now, sacred geometry is so important that I have set aside 3 classes for it, 69, 70, and 71. And we will culminate in 72. Then, yes, the exactness of creation, because only after we understand sacred geometry will we be ready for the exactness of creation. This is wonderful, I always tell you. If a person who claims to be an atheist, which is different, which is a neologism, atheist or agnostic, after learning about sacred geometry classes, still remains agnostic or atheist, then there's really nothing more to do. Then you can really leave that person in their eternal skepticism. Because it's impossible for a person to resist the revealing power of sacred geometry. And if the Bible isn't sacred, why is geometry sacred? Because the Word of God is not the Bible. The Word of God is consciousness. The Word of God is nature. The Word of God is spoken in nature. It is spoken in consciousness. It is preached in the cosmos. In fact, Paul mentions this in the letter to the Colossians. And this story recorded here, which you came through, most of you, has 20% of the X who didn't come through this here. But most of you came through this Word of God. This is also a Judeo-Christian form of a path, where God presented himself with avatars through the greatest of all, the greatest manifestation of all, called Jesus. But how will the indigenous people know God? Or how did all the Aboriginal tribes come to know the Creator? How? How did Africans come to know God? How will they be judged? So every tribe, no matter how small or new, knew God through the sun, moon, and stars. There's no other way. Positive sun, negative moon, stars. Sun, moon, and stars. Sun, moon, and stars.
The word is in everything, right, Professor?
The word is in everything. So that means another. Why are we ascending? 69, 70, 71, it will culminate in the exactness of creation. Because once you delve into sacred geometry, you will understand one thing. The universe is made like this. I can be an atheist, reactionary, rebellious, skeptical, nihilist, contrary, critical, annoying. I can be whatever I want to be. But everything I do, from the moment I wake up until I go to sleep, is signed in 369. Fact, right? Got it? And what made you have that fancy car you have there? This house? You say, I never had anything to do with God, nor with the Word of God, and I am prosperous. That's why I didn't believe in anything, that everything I have was given to me by myself, my effort, my work, my talents, and my money. Well, know that you made money with 369, with the wisdom of Kabbalah, even without believing in it, even never having heard of it. What gave you money? What gave you a bed? A good one was 369. In other words, you can be an atheist. I'm outside the system. I don't believe in anything. I don't follow anything. I don't believe in any man. I prefer to believe in the animal. But there's a problem. The animal operates on 369. And the human being you don't believe in operates on 369. And you yourself, you who trust in yourself, operate on 369. Wherever your faith is placed, everything is sacred geometry. It's amazing, isn't it? So I want to know about this one, this ring, this 3. I am a businessman from Gramado. I am a businessman from Sao Paulo. I am a businessman from Florianopolis. I am a businessman from BH. I am a businessman from Rio de Janeiro. My whole life, made my life, raised my children, my grandchildren. I raised everything in my life without anything, this nonsense, this stuff, this idiocy. I don't believe in any of it. There, I don't follow any of that. But your company, everything you were going to do, had step number 1, step number 2, step number 3. The positions, the projects, the applications, the schedules, the ideas, the shifts, the salaries. All right, do you understand or not? There's nowhere to go, my son. That's why I, once again, will have to end with Adorio's campaign. Because they talk about this and still you don't believe. And the other day, Clarice showed me Red Bull joined the campaign. Red Bull also signed with Delta in 3. Who else joined? Lula Paulo Red Bull. By the way, what does the word Lollapalooza mean?
It means extraordinary, different.
Extraordinary different. The word Lollapalooza means X.
Then they have the Red Bull stage there, with that all-seeing eye symbol and secret written in big letters. And the door is a lock, as if it were the key.
See, people don't understand. Number 3. In numerology, it influences expression and sensitivity. For the Egyptians, the pyramids, those of the secret society and occultism, the main rock agreements are also 3. The time was 3, the main one, but I didn't take it from myself. Lollapalooza Brazil will be in month 3 on the 23rd, 24th, and 25th. And adding it up equals 72. 7 plus 2 equals 9. 9 divided by 3 equals 3. Coincidence or not, the festival will last 3 days. Sponsored by a snack with 3 corners with 3 different flavors. Coincidentally, this commercial ends in 3, 2, 1. Thank you, because we are with a third of inclinations for Dona Palos, Brazil. This commercial ends in 3, 2, 1, 1.
Goodbye to you all until class 70. Good night to everyone.
Here there's no rapture. Here there's Mars.